Hi everyone, today's video is brought to you by my lovely patrons who voted for its inclusion, as they do every month. If you'd like to get involved with Patreon and support the channel as well as get something back, then please do check it out. I've just updated the rewards as well, so I'll leave the link in the description. So, what did they pick, I hear you ask? Well, it seems like they want to heap more misery on Thrive and Survive. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday with me, Simon Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. Yes, it will come as no surprise to you that Mr. Thrive and Survive is not only a flat earther, but he's also one of those pesky space deniers. And in today's video, he has found absolute proof that man was never in space. Absolute proof. Wow. Thrive and Survive could be famous if he's got this one right. Has he got it right though?
Hey everyone, Rismus for Thrive and Survive. May have to hang with me just a little bit here, but I promise you it's going to be worth it. I'm going to make this as short and sweet as possible. Just did a Google search. What is the vacuum of space in Torr? The lower the number, the more the vacuum is. Outer space, 10 to the negative 6th power. That's the minimum. That is the minimum you get in outer space, according to NASA, to 1 times 10 to the negative 17th. Way, way, way more than 10 to the negative 6th.
I hope you mean way, way more of a vacuum rather than 10 to the negative 17 being way, way, way bigger than 10 to the negative 6. Because if we're talking about numbers, then 10 to the negative 17 is way, way, way smaller than 10 to the negative 6.
So this is the bare minimum right here. So what does it take on Earth what kind of materials are needed to be able to sustain the minimum 10 to the negative 6? Let's take a look. Space Power Facility is a NASA facility used to test space flight hardware under simulated launch and space flight conditions. So you can come here. I will put the link below in the description. Thermal vacuum testing, this is what we're interested in. And they get into other stuff like radiation and stuff like that, which Apollo astronauts supposedly went through with no problems, right?
Right! Well, in the short term, yes. However, a study completed in 2016 saw a significant increase in cardiovascular disease amongst the Apollo astronauts.
Anyway, Thermal Vacuum Test Chamber, SPF, is a vacuum chamber built by NASA in '69. So they built this after the astronauts went to the moon. Okay? It stands 122 feet high and 100 feet in diameter. But here's what I want you to get to. The facility can sustain a high vacuum, 10 to the negative 6 torr. This is the minimum for outer space.
Okay. So what? What's your point?
Simulate solar radiation, blah, blah, blah. But we're only interested right now in this chamber. Anyway, let's look at the concrete chamber enclosure. The concrete chamber enclosure serves not only as a radiological shield, but also as a primary vacuum barrier from atmospheric pressure. 130 feet in diameter and 150 feet high, the chamber was designed to withstand atmospheric pressure outside of the chamber at the same time vacuum conditions are occurring within. Now, let's think spacesuits. Spacesuits is just the opposite. You have vacuum outside, pressure inside. The concrete thickness varies from 6 to 8 feet or 1.8 to 2.4 meters. 6.8 or 6 to 8 feet is the thickness of the concrete around the barrier.
And why wouldn't you have that? When you have a vacuum like that here on Earth, the force acting on that container is due to the atmospheric pressure and the size of that container. A large container like this, which is shaped and made to contain things within it, can be squashed like it's made out of paper.
Think about that. So you think, well, that's plenty for a vacuum chamber, right? And contains a leak-tight steel containment barrier embedded within. Every vacuum chamber they build has to have not only thick concrete, if they're building of any size, but it has to have a steel containment barrier. You know why? Because even 8 feet of concrete in a vacuum of 10 to the negative 6, the air will suck through it.
Hang on, I just want to make sure he said what I think he said there.
Because even 8 feet of concrete in a vacuum of 10 to the negative 6, the air will suck through it. Think about that.
I am thinking about it, and as usual, it appears that you are chatting absolute rubbish.
8 feet of up to 8 feet of concrete, and you still need a steel containment barrier embedded within it. Amazing. That's the power of a vacuum.
No, that's the power of the atmosphere outside of that vacuum. Vacuums don't suck. How many times?
Which is the very minimum that they can have in space. Anyway, you can read all the different details here, and you can see some of the concrete here, how thick it is. Very thick, and yet they still have to have steel. All right, so now this is the important part. This is where cognitive dissonance will kick in for many people.
No, this is where common sense kicks in for most people. For someone like you, it's gullibility. This is where gullibility kicks in, driven by the Rayleigh-Nodell effect.
So we were told that man landed on the moon and walked in the vacuum of space on the moon, plus spacewalks in between with other different launches and things like that, correct? Yeah. Long before they built this facility, they were supposedly walking in space. So if it takes 6 to 8 feet of concrete and a steel barrier to contain a vacuum, let's see what the Apollo astronauts used in their spacesuits. Link for this below. The Apollo A7L spacesuit materials list. Now this is the only one we're going to be interested in here, the extravehicular suit. Because we want to know when they're outside the vehicle, when they're on the moon, or when they're doing a spacewalk like they supposedly do around the space station.
Again, vacuums don't suck.
Okay, what do they have? They have 15 layers. This keeps going. Oh, no. They got 21 layers now. Keeps going up. Teflon cloth, beta cloth. These are abrasion and flame resistance fire protection. Aluminized griddle captain. Reflective insulation. Got to reflect that intense sunlight off, right? Teflon coated silica fiber laminate to captain. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that word. I don't know what it is. Spacer. This is a spacer between reflective surfaces.
Yes, we get the gist. He reads the entire collection of materials, and I think I know why.
And then finally we have Nomex cloth, lightweight, no less, for comfort. So we're not interested in these because these are other suits. So that's what you have, and that is supposed to keep you protected from 10 to the minus 6 to 10 to the minus 17th torr. So
there is a real fundamental misunderstanding here on how vacuums work. The pressure inside a spacesuit is actually less than atmospheric and is roughly around a third of the pressure we experience here at sea level. If you had the suit at normal atmospheric pressure and there was no hinges or restraint layers built in within the suit, then you would have an inflation issue. But that is not because vacuums suck. Force is pressure multiplied by surface area. Now the spacesuit is specifically designed with material that is elastic enough to withstand that force and has restraint layers built in to keep the inflation issue in check.
Again, go back and take a look at all this. Here's a picture of the vacuum chamber that I have in the thumbnail, and this is the same one in Ohio. Look at the thickness of the concrete. It's got to have a steel barrier in it. And people think that people are going with cloth, hand and machine sewn, into space in 10 to the negative 6 to 10 to the negative 17 tour. No wonder nobody accepted the $10,000 challenge to go into a spacesuit and go into a vacuum chamber. I wouldn't do it either.
Many people have done it though, and for free as well.
If you use your brain, you won't ever think that we could have gone into space, and never could if space is indeed a vacuum like we're being told.
And this is his absolute proof that we didn't go to space. He should retitle it to Absolute Proof That Thrive and Survive Doesn't Know How Vacuums Work. That would make more sense. Right, that wraps up another Tinfoil Tuesday of Space Denying Silliness. Thank you very much for joining me. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and once again, if you fancy getting involved and voting for a video every month, then again, the Patreon details are in the description. I have been Simon Dan. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great week, and I'll see you all on Friday for the return of Phuket Word. See you then.